Okay. So I wanted to talk on a slightly important aspect of doing spiritual processes, something that is not given too much attention, and I think we actually should give it a lot of attention, and that is merely because your intentions are good, that doesn't mean that the outcomes are also going to be good. Because way too many people, they start processes, they pick up things and they practice, or they are given things and they have it with them, and there are certain consequences. Now, I am never tired of saying always learn from a recognized person in a recognized lineage, because there are protections inherent in that. There is credibility, there is experience. So I recently had a few communications, and I was quite taken aback as to how much risk people take in life. Because you have when you're doing a spiritual process, a certain kind of compassion comes in, a certain kind of benevolence comes in, certain desire to help comes in, all of which is fine, all of which is symbol of significance of progress. But if you don't know what you're doing, it all becomes karmic interference, which is the number one reason why yogis are so much against healing, because healing is basically karmic interference. So there was this somebody who recently discovered my videos wrote into me about an incident that she had, and where she saw this child being mm, pretty roughly treated by the mother, and she just did a sort of energy scan because she's intuitive and awakened and she has certain abilities, and she realized the child is very scared of the mom. The child is not having very good experiences with the mom, so she, on her own initiative and on her own volition, she sent out a sankalpa, she sent out an intention to the mom that you change your behavior towards your baby. And within 5 months, 5 minutes, the mom became very playful and kind, and now all that is very nice and very fine. But how do you know? How do you know what the karmic dynamics between the two are? Some people, they need opposition, some people they need prevention, then the energy flares up, then the Shakti flares up. They might have some kind of peculiar dynamic, they might have some kind of karmic need that you are not aware of. Now, by your interference, you have probably sent both their karmic streams into different directions. You have probably sent both of their life patterns into different directions, and now you are responsible because you altered something that was not your karma. You interfered. Now, it is quite another matter to say with your words, to go up to the mom and say, you should not treat your child like this, and then if she changes her behavior, that is one matter. But you use whatever Shakti has built up in you, you sent it out as an intention, and you have imposed your will, on another person, and you have shifted it. Now, this is something that, except for realized masters, nobody should dare to do, and even they are very, 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 very careful about it. They are very, very concerned about not getting into interference with another person's karma. Now, because it might be that the way that the child's talents will flourish, or the child will, become stubborn or become determined precisely because he is being opposed, or precisely because he is being stamped down. And what could then become a very exceptional person, a very determined person, a very skillful person, may now end up becoming a very mediocre person, because now that opposition is not there to challenge and draw out the internal Shakti. So, it is one matter to just say something, because that is very mild level of karma. But to use your own personal Shakti and to shift this, that is, it's done with good intentions. But one of my favorite sayings in the English language is, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Today it has fallen out of usage for some reason. I don't know why, because people believe that good intentions are justification in its own right. And yoga knows that is not true. You can end up doing tremendously stupid and dangerous things with perfectly good intentions. And this was a classic example of good intentions interference. And like, on what basis? See, even if the mother was the disciple of that person and she sent out that sankalpa, that is still not recommended. That is still interference. Now, this is an exceptional case, but there are other cases also where you don't know you have the good intentions or you have the good desire, and merely because you are in some kind of spiritual process and the other person is also in some kind of spiritual process, that does not automatically mean that both of you have the same goals, or that other person will not use you in the furtherance of their goals, or they will not exploit you, or these are dangerous things. Some people were writing in saying that they are empaths, and when they go out into malls and things like that, they feel overburdened by the amount of input that comes in from everybody. And I said, you need a Rudraksha mala maybe, because the Rudraksha mala absorbs everything, and then you just clean the mala, and it stops that input from the other people coming into you. So one of them wrote and said that years back I was walking in the Himalayas, and we were walking through a cemetery, and I'm like, a cemetery in the Himalayas? Okay, that's odd. And there was this kind of yogi who was talking to me, and as we were parting, he tore out this Rudraksha he had on his neck, and he wouldn't accept any money from me, and he gave it to me. And should I wear that? That whole story kind of sent off like enormous warning bells in my mind. Why would he give the Rudraksha from his Vishuddhi Chakra? Why would he not take any money for it? So I said, you try wearing it and see what happens. And in less than like 10 hours I got a response that my head is pounding, I got cold, my eyes have all I said, okay, it might be that you have not cleaned that Rudraksha for some time, so maybe there's some sticky energy. You hold it under running water for 5 minutes and try again. But my suspicion is no. My suspicion is that they use that, very often these practitioners, especially those who are very much into occult sort of things, they gather all their negativity in some object. They can't let go of it because it needs a karmic cocoon, or it needs a karmic base to work out. So they wait until they can find somebody, and then they just give it to another person, and that whole karma works out in another person. Now that is of course a very wrong thing to do, but they are occult people, they are on the path of personal power, so they don't particularly care that you will suffer. So this is the biggest mistake, to believe that just because somebody wears the uniform, looks holy, that person may not have his own agenda, that person may not have his own somewhat dangerous things to do, and I have seen this even in a place like Arunachalam where it shouldn't happen. I have seen places on the hill where, it's been flattened out and you can sit down for people to rest, and just over there suddenly you will find these little conglomeration of nimbu. What is nimbu called in English? That lemon, yeah. Because we know in yoga that lemon is a tremendous absorbent of negativity. So that's why they hang it outside the doors, especially on Saturday and things like that, because any negativity that comes. Now, eggs are also the same. So a lot of black magic is done with eggs and lemons. And Mirchi. What is mirchi? That the chili, the red chili or the green chili, especially the red chili is tremendously. So very often you see people doing these havans and they are putting in chilies and they are putting in lemons and some of them even put in eggs. Run as far as you can when you see somebody do that. And if the person tells you sit with me and offer it, run even faster. Because the person is now transferring all that negative karma to you. Now, experienced yogis know these things, which is why when you learn, you should be with somebody who's experienced. You should be with somebody who knows. There is a temple on the Girivalam road and it is a completely occult blockage temple. You know, all the murtis there are out in the open, but they are very weird. The vibration is completely wrong. And the Indians avoid, all the foreigners who come over there, they get suckered in, and those tantric fellows sitting there, they give them these lemons and they tell them stamp them under your foot. Now somebody should intervene, and one day the senior yogis of the place will get together and they will intervene. It's just that those fellows there are very obviously very wild tantric types. Nobody wants to get into them. Plus it is a sort of filter. That one temple is a sort of filter for the negativity. People do come with enormous amount of negativity and you can feel it. Those who are coming with me in October, you can feel it. Just as you pass by that temple only, and those guys are come, you know, and they have stories to tell you. Now again, if you're coming here with no understanding of the culture and no understanding of these deeper, more dangerous things, you will get sucked in. But if you are with somebody who knows what is going on, you won't get, you know. So this thing of my good intentions will protect me is actually a very risky thing to base your life on. It won't. You know, just because you have good intentions, it is not necessarily that you will be protected. You can suffer, you can get derailed, you can get a lot of stuff that is not yours. Yes, of course, in the long term it will last, but you know, lifetimes may go. Then you will need to meet some senior person who understands these things and that person can help you. And so be very careful. And these so-called gifts, nothing comes for free. So, you know, unless it is a person in your own parampara, it is your own guru, these so-called spiritual things never take. Never, ever, ever, ever take. And somebody wandering on the road, please. You know, that kind of thing is like a catastrophically dangerous game to play. Those are all like, because you know, the occult knowledge which was once commonplace is today forgotten. You know, so I don't blame anybody for it, but at the same time, you cannot be protected if you accept that. You open the doorway to that sort of situation, you cannot be protected, you know. So that is the reason why we keep insisting, come to the lineage, come to the parampara, come to the experienced teachers, people who know what they're doing. You know, you just pick up any old thing from any place, it becomes dangerous. And then another story, one young man, you know, very obviously activated, very obviously in some kind of fierce situation. And I'm not able to understand why should he be in this mess, because his life seems to be quite chaotic. Then I find out he has a murti of Vishnu. It's made of panchadhatu, 5 metals, you know, which are very, very powerful. And he's been sleeping with it. Now you don't, you know, unless it's very exceptional circumstance, you don't sleep with, and you don't sleep with a Vishnu Murti. You know, Vishnu Murti, that energy is not at all conducive to those kind of. Maximum you can do, you put it over your head near when you sleep. And okay, so that's bad enough. And then on top of it, he's been doing the Shivatandava Stotra, which is like the ultimate crazy maniacal Rudra aspect of Shiva, and it is the person who gave that mantra to the world is Ravana, who is the number one enemy of Vishnu. So he's got Vishnu, and he's doing Ravanas, and then he's puzzled why. Then he's puzzled why his life is in the way it is now. Unless you are in very, very advanced level of yoga, nobody should dare to do the Shivatandava Stotram, because the words itself are powerful, but it's fundamentally, it's just one bija mantram after the other. If you are not absolutely centered, that thing can be used so easily. It can be used so easily in negative ways. It can be so easily to just fry another human being. The words are so powerful because it was the nature of the originating rishi. He was a dominant. He was an asura. He was a guy who wanted to dominate, to rule, to crush, and that nature is always there in the mantra. Whoever originates the mantra, that nature is there in the mantra. And no doubt he is a great devotee of Shiva, but he is an enemy of Vishnu, and you have a Vishnu Murti and you are doing Shivatandava Stotram. You cannot unleash two streams like that. They just come and clash, and then the person doing it, his body becomes the battlefield. So naturally this whole, and so he can't focus on anything. He can't just get his act together. His whole life is splintering. His family is deeply disappointed. And naturally, what else do you expect? Again, why did you do these things? Do you have somebody to tell you? Did somebody recommend? Because anybody who knows that he's a Vishnu Bhakta, the last thing he'll tell him is to do Shivatandava Stotram. It's so completely counterintuitive. Because you cannot do multiple things, and this is the other thing that people don't tell you. When you're doing yoga, you have to stick to one path. You cannot be doing 5-6 processes simultaneously. You cannot be chanting and then you cannot suddenly switch over to pranayama and then suddenly switch over to something else. If you try 5-6 processes simultaneously, you're just causing massive damage to yourself. There are 180,000 paths to enlightenment. Only Shiva knows all of them. You can walk on one at a time. You can't even walk on 2 of them. And people actually do this, and then they say, I've been spiritually inclined, I've been practicing for so many years and nothing has happened to me. Naturally, nothing will happen to you. Only negative things will happen to you because of this mess that you're creating. Even if you're doing multiple processes, do them one at a time. See it through. If you're doing a mantra, see the mantra through. If you're doing the meditative process, then see the now it's different that do the kriya and then do the meditation. That is still one process. They are not too different. But if you're doing something which is purely meditative, don't mix that up with the kriya, or don't mix that up with some mala japa, and certainly don't mix that up by going to all and sundry temples, and these are the ways. Now it's not like if you worship Vishnu you can't become enlightened, or but the Vishnu energy flows in a particular way and the Shiva energy flows in a particular way. You cannot keep switching from one to the other and saying there will be no problem. Maximum will happen is that you will not move, but very often intense damage will be caused to you internally. At a physical level, at a mental level, at an emotional level, and this is the reason why you need a senior person, you need a teacher, you need somebody to tell you, okay, that's not right for you. And this has become so common today. This has become ubiquitous, this has become so completely it would not have happened 100 years back, because in those times these things were well understood. If you are a Vaishnava, then you do Vaishnava practices. You don't do Shaiva practices. Today it has become like, I will choose whatever appeals to me, whatever is currently attractive to me. Now very often the thing that is attractive to you may have no impact on you. Again, that is the reason why you need somebody senior to explain that to you. That okay, this is not working for you. You need somebody to constantly monitor. You need somebody to constantly monitor what is going on. So if you plunge into these waters and you don't have somebody who can see what kind of depth you are in, then why complain later? If you're very lucky, nothing will happen. Most of the time, nothing does not happen. Very bad things happen. and, and I don't like to stress this, but I'm seeing that this belief in good intentions is becoming a genuine problem. People have this quite strange, I don't want to call it delusion, because it's not something that is, but people have this strange belief. People have this strange belief that so long as my intentions are good, there will be no consequence to whatever cock-ups I do, and unfortunately that's not true, especially not in yoga. Especially not in yoga, because the problem is yoga has been going on for 5,000 years and all these processes are energized. All these processes, the minute you start, you get hooked to that entire channel through which it has been coming. And you start doing 4 or 5 of them, or you start doing the wrong things. Like everything I told you, in each case, the intention is perfect. Nothing is wrong in any one of those cases. In each case, the intention is perfect. The consequence is terrible. And you have to be extremely alert and aware. You have to be, is this my path? Is this helping me? Is this, and why this desire to go? Why this desire to flit from one to the other? Stick to your channel, stick to your path, stick to your marga, as it is called. There is a marga, you stick to the marga. Now, again, people don't know. Ignorance is no excuse. If you don't know, find somebody who does. Or until you know, please don't do these things. You just cannot say, but I didn't know and I will be protected. That is the other dangerous belief that people have, that because they have the aspiration to grow spiritually, they believe that the whole heavenly host of angels will protect them permanently, and nowadays they are assured of that also. And then you take one of those lemons or those eggs and you will know how much protection you have. what gets released into your life, then you will know. So it's not for children. You see, if you start in this childish manner, you will certainly get into trouble. Sometimes it is good. You get your hands burnt, then you start becoming serious. But certainly one should not believe this. One should not have this foolish trust and move forward. That's not the way. That doesn't lead you to liberation or enlightenment. It leads you to very, very interesting places, but it doesn't help you out. What is to be done? This is the ultimate tragedy. In India now we have to explicitly say these things. It has to be communicated. It was all taken for granted in the culture. It was almost like the oxygen, and now one has to say these things. Well, that's the way it is. Okay? Sarvam